So Prince William is getting crowned on his birthday, and the official reason that day was chosen is that it's meaningful, it's symbolic, it represents a new era. But when you actually look at the timeline of how this all came together, the story gets a lot more interesting than just a nice calendar coincidence. Nobody was supposed to know about the meeting.
That's the first thing you need to understand.
When word started leaking out of a closed door gathering inside one of the most restricted rooms in the palace, the people who first heard about it went very quiet. Not the kind of quiet that signals nothing. The kind of quiet that signals everything. The room itself, the private council chamber, has its own weight, its own reputation. Palace historians will tell you it's reserved for decisions too sensitive to be carried in the open, too consequential to be recorded in any ordinary diary. And the people who were called into it this time were not minor figures. They were the people who matter most when a crown is about to change hands. Princess Anne was there, Prince William was there, and what came out of that room has now been confirmed by both of them. King Charles is stepping down officially, and the coronation date for William and Catherine is no longer a rumor. It's real. Before we get into how this all unfolded, if you're new here on my channel, hit that subscribe button real quick. We break down royal news the minute it happens, and you're going to want to be here for everything coming between now and November. What made the reports even more electric was what nobody could confirm in those first few hours. Not a single aide on the outside of those doors knew with certainty whether the meeting concerned a security matter, a health development, or a succession decision. And that uncertainty, that very specific kind of not knowing, was its own kind of signal. Because when things are truly fine inside that palace, people talk casually, indiscreetly even. When things are not fine, the silence becomes architectural. You can feel the walls go up. Sources close to the situation have since described the atmosphere in those corridors in the hours after the meeting as something close to controlled tension, not panic. The monarchy does not panic. That's one of the things it does best. It absorbs earthquakes and expresses them as dignified silences. But this silence was different. This silence had a direction to it. And the direction every person paying careful attention understood was pointing squarely at the future of the crown itself. What we now know, based on reporting that's been corroborated across multiple outlets, is that the meeting was not about security. It was not about protocol. It was about succession. It was about the specific, careful, very deliberate transfer of the most powerful symbolical office in the United Kingdom. And the people in that room were not there to discuss hypotheticals. They were there because the hypothetical had become real. The decision that came out of that room, the decision that would ripple through every corner of the British establishment within hours, was the decision that King Charles III was finally stepping down. The paperwork may not have finished its journey through the formal channels, but the decision, as of that meeting, had been made. And two of the most senior, most trusted members of the royal family had walked into that chamber knowing one thing and walked out knowing another. The palace has been careful about language, extraordinarily careful. Every statement about King Charles's health has been measured, qualified, deliberately constructed to project a sense of continuity. The word they keep reaching for is determined, determined to serve, determined to continue, determined to honor the commitment he made when the crown fell to him in September 2022 at the age of 73. The oldest person in British history to assume the throne. And he looked at that weight and chose to carry it anyway. But determination has limits, and the body in the end does not negotiate with resolve. The cancer diagnosis announced publicly in February 2024 was never given a specific name. Buckingham Palace confirmed only that the king had been diagnosed with an undisclosed form of cancer. The carefully chosen vagueness that royal watchers noted immediately, because vagueness at that level of institutional communication is never accidental. What palace officials confirmed in 2026, however, is something that cuts through even the most carefully managed messaging. They confirmed that King Charles is reducing treatment, and they confirmed in the same breath that his cancer is not in remission. That combination of facts, less treatment and no remission, is not a statement of progress. It is, for anyone willing to read it plainly, something closer to a statement of acceptance. Those close to the king have described a man who spent decades waiting for a role that finally became his, and who has not for a single moment been willing to step back from it without a fight. Royal biographer Robert Hardman described Charles in those early years of his reign as appearing astonishingly happier than he had ever been, energized, full of genuine purpose. His note scribbling, his relentless scheduling, his refusal to slow down even when Queen Camilla herself reportedly worried about the pace. This was not the performance of a man going through the motions. This was a man who had finally found the place where he was meant to be, standing. But the hospitalizations happened. The canceled engagements accumulated. The brief but undeniable moments when the body said no, when the treatment produced side effects severe enough that the palace had no choice but to acknowledge them publicly, those moments left marks not just on the king, but on the institution watching him. A royal insider who spoke to New Idea magazine put it with a kind of weary honesty that cut through the usual palace polish. He's 77 and still being treated following his cancer diagnosis. He's trying to keep up the pace, but he's tired. That word tired carries more information than any official statement has ever managed to convey. And then there is what those who see him privately have described: the cane, the measured pace, the weight of a battle that has been fought with extraordinary courage, but that does not by any honest accounting appear to be moving in the direction the palace's public statements have sometimes implied. Sources who spoke to Radar Online described the king who has been physically diminished in ways that a packed public schedule cannot fully conceal. Whose stamina, that famous, relentless, almost inconceivable stamina, has been quietly but unmistakably eroded by what his body has been asked to withstand. What makes this moment different from all the previous months of speculation is precisely this. Those around Charles who love him most, who have served him longest, and who understand better than anyone what the institution requires, have reached a point where continuing to project unlimited capacity has become impossible to sustain. The body has been telling the truth for months. The palace has been speaking in code, and now finally the code has been broken. There's a phrase within the walls of the British monarchy that has held significant weight for nearly a century since King Edward abdicated in December 1936 to marry Wallis Simpson, a decision that sent shockwaves through the institution, the effects of which are still being felt today. The concept of abdication has become, as one palace source described it, a taboo topic. The word itself was not to be spoken or even contemplated. It was as if it did not exist in any language recognized by the British monarchy. However, recent reports from various reliable sources indicate something surprising. A quiet, careful, and methodical plan for abdication has been assembled. This is not a theoretical framework or a hypothetical contingency buried in a file cabinet under a coded title. It is a working plan that is being rehearsed, refined, and prepared for the moment it might be needed. According to insiders who spoke to New Idea magazine, the plan encompasses practice runs for the Accession Council, the formal assembly of privy councillors and senior officials at St. James's Palace, where a new monarch is officially proclaimed. It includes preparations for the public proclamation itself, the moment when the streets and airwaves of Britain fill with the news that one reign has ended and another has begun. Additionally, it features what the source described as a quiet handover ceremony, the moment when King Charles would sign the instrument of abdication, transferring the crown in the most literal sense. Reports indicate that rehearsals for a handover involving Prince William are currently taking place. The heir is not merely a passive participant in these preparations. He is being actively and deliberately groomed for a transition that the institution has resolved to execute swiftly, with dignity, and without chaos. What is extraordinary about this development, beyond its historical significance, is what it suggests about how the palace's perspective has changed. For months, official spokespeople have consistently claimed the king has no plans to abdicate. He is committed to his duties and is not being pressured. The phrase "not being pushed" appears repeatedly in these reports, highlighting the palace's careful management of the narrative regarding agency. When King Charles steps back, every official statement will emphasize that the decision was entirely his, made freely and on his own terms. Royal biographer Robert Jobson confirmed this, stating that Charles would only consider stepping back if his health rendered him unable to fulfill his responsibilities. According to multiple sources, the point at which his health has become a concern has now been reached. The plan is in place. Rehearsals have taken place, and the private council chamber has been utilized for its most serious purpose. There is a version of events in which Prince William waited, carrying out his engagements, making statements, standing at a respectful distance from the throne, and allowing time, biology, and institutional necessity to close the gap between heir and king. However, that is not what transpired. What actually happened, according to sources with close access to the Prince of Wales, who have been speaking more openly over the past several months, is something much more intentional. William has not been waiting, he has been preparing. This preparation has been systematic, strategic, and strikingly ambitious in scope. The private meetings began months ago, not the type that appear in official diaries, but gatherings with key figures, constitutional advisors, senior courtiers, and others whose institutional knowledge and personal influence will be crucial when the time for transition arrives. Sources confirmed to the Royal Observer that William has deliberately arranged these meetings, focusing on strategic conversations about the future of the monarchy. One longtime aide described the situation succinctly. In many ways, he's already king unofficially. The institution is preparing emotionally, even if the paperwork hasn't caught up. Read that again. Already king unofficially. This is not the language of a man whose accession is merely theoretical. It reflects a transition that is, in every meaningful sense, already underway. Kate's role in all of this may be less visible, but according to those who know the couple well, it is no less central. Reports indicate that she has been quietly planning the logistics of the coronation, not merely in a ceremonial capacity, but in an organizational one. She is mapping out what a coronation for William would look like, not if, but when. Insiders have acknowledged that this is obviously a highly sensitive situation, but they assert that the logistics must be established well in advance. Describing Kate as a central organizer rather than a passive participant reinforces the picture that palace watchers have been piecing together. This couple is not simply preparing to assume the crown, they are preparing to manage everything that comes with it. Then there was the garden party on May 8, 2026, hosted by William and Kate at Buckingham Palace. The guest list included the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh and William's cousin Zara Tindall, who has reportedly been suggested for a key advisory role in the future reign. A source who spoke to New Idea noted what that image communicated. 5 influential people arriving together, photographed as a united group, in a world where nothing about the monarchy's public image is accidental. That photograph was no accident. It served as a statement, a signal, and a first glimpse of the court that will support the next king. As one palace insider put it, the monarchy survives because it adapts before it needs to. What William has been building in private serves as evidence that this adaptation is already well underway. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, often gets overlooked, but she has understood the importance of recent events for a long time. As the hardest-working member of the royal family, she has played a key role in what is about to happen. At King Charles's coronation in 2023, she made a strong impression. She rode on horseback as Gold Stick in Waiting, a ceremonial bodyguard role with a long history in the British military. She wore her uniform with an authority that is uniquely hers. In every photo from the day, she stood out as a powerful presence. Charles chose her for this role out of respect, not sentiment, because Anne deeply understands the monarchy and knows how to get things done properly. Before that private meeting to confirm the coronation, those close to her described Anne as calm and composed. She was not surprised by what was happening. She had known it was coming and had expressed her views in quiet but impactful ways, rather than in loud announcements. When Anne announced the coronation date, witnesses noted her calm resolve. Her voice was steady and she chose her words carefully. She stated clearly that her brother had served the crown honorably and that it was time for a new era with William to be crowned. Anne's confirmation is significant, not just for what she said, but for who she is in the royal family. She does not seek attention or create drama. When she speaks clearly, it is because she feels it is time to act. Her judgment has rarely been wrong over her long time in the monarchy. Princess Anne is expected to play an important role in the upcoming coronation, possibly repeating her gold stick position. This connection from one brother's crowning to the next carries its own significance. She will lead the ceremony as she has always been someone the institution relies on. This time, she will represent the shift from the monarchy's past to what it is becoming. There is now a date set for Prince William's coronation, November 14, 2026. The state marks a significant change compared to past speculations and reports about this event. If the sources are correct, William will be crowned king on his birthday, which is a meaningful choice. It shows that this date is not just a coincidence, but a statement about his role. Westminster Abbey has been the site of every coronation since 1066. Each ceremony has adapted to the times while also showing the continuity of the monarchy. It has seen many types of rulers and will now see William assume the throne. The coronation will be different from King Charles's ceremony in May 2023. Insiders say it will be shorter, more inclusive, and designed for a modern Britain. Recent polling showed that the monarchy's approval ratings dipped below 50%, and planners are aware of this. They want the coronation to respond to the public's changing views. William aims to lead the monarchy with more accountability and purpose rather than simply following tradition. He understands the problems caused by secrecy and intends to change this. Kate, his partner, is also key to this new approach. Her public journey through health challenges has helped earn public trust for the institution. For Charles, November 14th is significant. He waited 73 years for the crown and dedicated himself to his duties. He wants to choose the timing of his transition to ensure it reflects dignity and continuity rather than a struggle to hold on to power. If everything goes as reported, the coronation of King William V and Queen Catherine will be one of the most watched events on British television. It will be a moment for a family that has faced many challenges, including health issues and scandals, to stand together at Westminster Abbey, hoping the monarchy still has relevance and strength. What takes place in the Abbey will determine if they are right. This marks the beginning of a crucial chapter for the British monarchy. The crown is moving, the date is set, and everyone will wonder if the monarchy Charles passes to William is strong enough for the future. November 14th will begin to answer that question.